Hello, we are live. Let me just refresh my page here, make sure it is actually live. I guess there's a bit of a delay, but assuming we're live, hey everybody, how's it going? Uh, Hello, Travis. I see you in the chat there. Hey, everyone who's watching, please feel free to say hello in the chat. I'm going to be monitoring it throughout the broadcast. You're watching Art Autopsy with me, your host, Clint Carney. I am a professional artist. I do a lot of work in the film and television industry, and every 2 weeks I come on here on the Clint Carney Creates YouTube channel and I start a new painting, which is what we're going to do today as well. So before we get started, I just want to give a huge thank you to my patrons: Jennifer Goupil, Tango 14, Travis, Anthony, Rachel, Derek, Violet, Jill, Charlie, Misty, Donna, Necrotechnicon, and our newest patrons, Stormy Dragon and Sarah. So hello, and let's see, we got Travis, Jennifer, Charlie, and Julie in the chat, and we have Liz. Hello, everybody. I hope you're doing awesome. So, for those of you who are new to the live stream, one thing I do is I encourage everybody who is so inclined to make art right along with me. You don't have to try to recreate what I'm doing, just make whatever kind of art that you like to make. And if you do, and you would like to share it with the world, just email it to me at clintcarneycreates@gmail.com and I will share it on an upcoming broadcast. So, that being said, I've got just one viewer art submission this week, and I'm going to show it to you guys right now. This comes from Liz, who goes by the artist name Phoenix. She's in the chat right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, Liz, but I believe this is done on with a tattoo gun on tattoo practice skin. Is that correct? Um, yeah, pretty cool. I've tattooed on this stuff before. It's pretty tough to work with, so good job, Liz, on that. Yeah, pretty cool. And let's see. Yeah, feel free to ask Liz questions. She's in the chat right now as well. We often have really cool artists joining in throughout these live streams, so I encourage everybody to talk amongst yourselves too as we go. I do want to give one bit of quick promo here. I put up some new prints on clintcarney.com. So these are them. These are canvas prints. They're gallery wrapped, 1.5 inches thick. They come ready to hang. They're pretty cool. So if you want to support my YouTube channel or my artistic endeavors, that's a great way to do it. Over at clintcarney.com, you'll also find links to my Patreon there and to this YouTube channel and all kinds of fun stuff. So I want to tell you guys quickly just a few things that I've been up to this week. This weekend, I did I was shooting the live show for the band Alice. It's going to be for their upcoming Blu-ray release, which was pretty fun. And then also at that show, we premiered the new music video for the song Say My Name that I directed for them. And I wanted to show you guys this little dude right here. This is an alien that I sculpted in Blender digitally and then 3D printed him just to show him off over at the premiere for the music video. This is a character from the music video. Really happy with the way he turned out. And the band may end up releasing these busts as a merchandise item, but I just wanted to share it with you guys. And then while we're on the topic of heads, this is just a raw latex casting. This just came out of the mold, has not been painted or had anything done to it. But this is, and you can see the mold's been pretty messed up after quite a lot of pulls, so there's a lot of cleanup that needs to be done. But this is what the raw shrunken heads look like that I made for the show Monster, the Ed Gein story, episode 2. There's a bunch of shrunken heads in the background in one of the scenes, and this is kind of what it looks like before I finished it and painted it. All of the shrunken heads in that scene, there are four of them, as well as another shrunken head in a flashback in episode 5 or 6. They all come from this one mold, and then I just painted them differently. I squished them, in different poses. I added different hair, so they all look very individual. And on screen, you can't tell the difference, but this is kind of the raw of what that looks like. So just wanted to share that with you. That whole show is up on Netflix right now. I haven't finished it yet. I'm a few episodes deep. It's kind of a fictionalized history of Ed Gein. It's not very true to history or whatever. If you can forgive that, then it's a fun watch. But if you are a stickler for historical accuracy, may not be the show for you. Okay, so last week I started this painting of well, let's show you this painting right here, and as you can see, it is still not finished. So I'm really stacking up these unfinished paintings from Art Autopsy. I need to just crank them out, all the ones that haven't been finished. I got to go through it. But I had a valid excuse. Was doing a lot of stuff over the weekend, and then the rest of the week, it was my 20th wedding anniversary. So me and Mrs. Carney, we were out of town, and yeah, just didn't have time. I was trying to squeeze it in today, but I got stuck on some other movie-related business and did not get around to it. But next Art Autopsy, I'm going to have at least this dude finished, and hopefully the other two that are pending as well. So for those of you anticipating the completion of these paintings, sorry, I will catch up though. Let's talk about what we're going to do today, though. Here is the blank canvas. And today I kind of want to do a companion piece to that guy. Oh, thank you all for that. Congratulations in the chat there. I really appreciate that. Yeah, she stuck with me for 20 years, believe it or not. And that's 20 years married and 27 together. So she is very patient. So by a companion piece, I don't mean one that's necessarily in that same scene, but I really liked what I did with the teal and the orange of the pumpkin there, and I want to just keep that color space going, and I want to create a piece that looks that could easily hang on a wall next to the ghost with the pumpkin. And since again Halloween is coming up, although here at Casa de Carney it's always Halloween, but for the sake of you people who where Halloween is just a seasonal event, we're going to stick with a Halloween themed painting today. And I believe we are going to do, or what I intend to do is I want to have like a pumpkin that maybe has the front of the pumpkin smashed out and a human skull shoved into the pumpkin, and then inside of that skull have maybe the mouth open like in a screaming position, and have a candle in there or some kind of light source. So it's kind of a jack-o'-lantern, but instead of a face carved on the pumpkin, the skull itself will be the face, and then really stick with that teal color palette with orange popping out from the mouth. So that is my plan, and we're going to get started and see how it goes. Now, if anyone is making art at home today, I would love to hear what you're working on, so let us know in the chat. Let's see. Oh, Charlie says her mom's birthday is Halloween. It's a year-round thing in her family too. That's awesome. Excellent. Every day is Halloween. So just as before, I'm starting out. We're going to do a sketch. We're just going to sketch it up directly in paint. For the sketch, I'm using Griffin Alkyd, which is a Winsor Newton paint, and this is just lamp black, or I'm sorry, this is ivory black. And I'm just going to use this to sketch it out, and we're going to do the underpainting in black and white. And for those who haven't watched before, an alkyd oil paint is a faster drying oil paint. So it still doesn't dry instantly, but it is much faster than your standard oil paint. So I find that for doing underpaintings, if I use the alkyd and then I really thin down my sketch with odorless terpenoid, which you'll see the paint that I first start sketching with is going to be very watery. It'll dry fast, and then I can really start blocking in the painting pretty quickly that way, and it will be dry enough to move on with it. So yeah, let's enough of my chattering. Let's see. I'm just kind of just roughing in some lines so that I, think about my composition at first. So I'm going to go with a fairly round pumpkin. And by the way, you are welcome to paint from the top of your head, and I often do, but I also have like just tons of references. There's masks, there's heads, and over here off camera, I also have this little skull, and I want to have this skull in a screaming position, so I just stuck a little magnet in there just to keep the mouth open, just so I can use that as a reference. I mean, I can certainly draw a skull without a reference, but now I'm having trouble balancing it in the right position. But sometimes it doesn't hurt, and there is no shame in having a reference. So that's what we're doing today. So that's the top there. And again, this pumpkin is going to be kind of like smashed open, like someone kicked it in and then shoved in this skull in the middle of it. That's the idea. And I think, I'm not committing to this yet, but I think we're just going to have the pumpkin sitting in a, like a bunch of leaves, fall leaves or something like that. Most of the image is going to be pretty monochromatic in terms of just being teal based, because again, I want it to be a nice companion piece for that ghost from the last live stream. I often find that when I'm drawing or painting skulls, and as you might guess, that's something that is a go-to for me. But I always start with the eye sockets first, and then kind of feel it out from there. For some reason, I don't know. Everything that I draw or paint, no matter whatever the object is, I generally, if I've drawn it or painted it more than once, I usually get into a habit of what part of it I start with first. And for a skull, I always find that the eye socket is a good reference for the overall scale of the rest of the features. Similarly, when I'm drawing a human face, I'll block in the basic shape, and then generally I start with the eyes, and work it out from there. I'm sure, I mean, I don't know that there's a right or wrong way to do it as long as the end result is good, but lots of people do that different ways, but that's the way I do it. And I'm gonna elongate the scream a bit. I'm going to exaggerate it a bit from my reference of my plastic skull. I could only stretch that skull so much but I want the scream to be more extreme. So there we go. So yeah, as part of our Mrs. Carney and my anniversary trip, we went to California Adventure, and then we went to Disneyland, and we haven't been to Disneyland in a while, and it was our first time seeing the Star Wars land there. And I got to say, that was my favorite part. If you're a fan of Star Wars, and I certainly am, it was so cool just to stand in that environment. I think a lot of the park, a lot of the theme park was built up over the years. So they have like Frontierland, Tomorrowland, and all that stuff. And over the years, they added stuff bit by bit. But the Star Wars land was built all at once. So the whole thing feels very cohesive, very much like you're living in that world of Star Wars. And then let me tell you, I got ridiculously excited when we turned the corner and saw the Millennium Falcon just there, and it was it was a thing of beauty. Yes, I am a bit of a nerd from time to time, or always. But anyway, yeah, Star Wars Land, pretty cool. Okay, I mean that's the basic shape right there, right? So let's think about the background, the horizon line. Um, that's our horizon line. That's not entirely even, but I'll fix that as we go. And again, I think it's just going to be like in a pile of leaves, you know? So I'm not going to overthink it. I'm just going to squiggle in some random blotchy shapes right here. Just kind of going to squint my eyes, let them go out of focus, and think about where I might like areas of light and shadow on the ground, uh, which will eventually add detail to and form some leaves and other random debris. Let's see, just checking in with the chat here. Do. Oh man, there's a lot going on in the chat. I missed a lot. Let me catch up here. Jennifer went to the Voodoo Museum in New Orleans and starting on a recreation of a painting she saw there. That's awesome. Yeah, that's a rad museum. Madame Laveau's, I'm guessing, right? Michael Garcia is working on a mask. Very cool. Charlie was kind of hoping to do a painting of the ballerina gator from the Patreon sketch. I still might do that one. It's definitely a possibility for a future painting. I also did for those who aren't on my Patreon, I did a capybara trick-or-treating too, which I'm kind of partial to. I might do a painting of that sometime too. Michael Garcia is more of a Six Flags guy. Travis had his 501st Legion shirt on when he went there, and the stormtroopers kept coming up and interacting with me. Lesson learned for an introvert like me. Nice. Nice. Well, I had my Star Wars hat on. That's the incognito Star Wars hat, because it has the insignia from the Death Star. I forget what rank it is, but none of the stormtroopers, none of the people in costumed as stormtroopers were nerdy enough to recognize what that was. So I got away scot-free with it. Okay, and then in the background, we're going to go forest, I think. All right. So as per usual, I have just put in I toned the canvas with a medium kind of tone green gray, which will kind of act as our midtones here. And then so for the sketch phase, yeah, I'm just putting in the shadows, and then I'm going to go in with a white and put in some highlights and let that tone part of the canvas for right now be our medium tones. So, and again, I want a light source coming from inside. In fact, let's talk about the light source of this painting right now. I'm going to have, we'll call it 2 light sources in here. An overall ambient light source coming from the moon, and that's going to be above our scene. Coming down on it, it's going to be casting a hard shadow under. So this right here is the lip of the pumpkin that's been kicked in, right? So it's going to cast a hard shadow right up here inside the skull, and a hard shadow underneath. This jaw is going to be pretty much in the shadow and all sorts of stuff. That's going to be ambient lighting, kind of, but most of this painting is going to be pretty dark because it's just moonlight. And then the bright light source is coming from right inside the mouth. So there's going to be a candle in here, or maybe I'll just have it kind of like a blown out effect where it's just glowing and we don't see the light source. It's more of a magical glow. That's also a possibility. We're going to figure that one out as we get further in. But for now, the sketch, the basic shape, you guys get the point right there. So let's start throwing in some highlights. And as per usual, I'm just using this little angled brush just for sketchy sketch sake. And again, using the alkyds, I'm going to squeeze out some white onto my palette. Hey, Zach Ward has joined. Hey, what's up, Zach? Good to have you here. Okay. All right, so let's think about our bright white source again. We're coming from inside the mouth, just for the brightest point. And as you can tell, I don't need to point this out because you guys can clearly see I am just starting sloppy, but that's okay. That's always how it starts. It doesn't have to be precise when you're still working it out, right? And then the jaw, the lower jaw of the skull here is going to be outside of the pumpkin, right? So I think I might change my mind on that, but that's where I'm leaning with it. So let's just reinforce the shadow there, and I'm just going to kind of go in with some solid black on some of these areas where the shadow is going to be particularly deep. I really went crazy on the size of this jaw here, but I'm actually okay with it. It's a little inanatomically correct, but I think if I lean into it, it could be cool. Squeeze out a bit more black. a smaller brush going on here. And just, again, we're just roughing this out, but I'm just going to throw in some gaps in the teeth right here. Just to get a little better feel for their teeth. My chair is as squeaky as ever, so enjoy the squeakiness. And so obviously, even though the teeth go all the way around, but at a certain point, we're only really going to see the gaps where the teeth are straight on. And then as they curve around, those gaps are going to be concealed because the teeth are stacked up a certain way. So and I think I'm going to he'll have a few teeth down on bottom, but I think I want to break some of them off so that it's really just, yeah, maybe he's only got 2 teeth on the bottom, or maybe we'll add a few more in as we go. I don't know. Yeah, I'm actually kind of digging this as kind of like a blown out light source without even seeing the light source underneath. We might stick with that, or we might add a candle in there. I don't know. I don't have to decide now, just eventually. Michael, what kind of mask are you making? Okay. I recently just added a new mask to my collection. Again, for those of you who have watched my show, you've heard me talk about this before, but I love the Distortions Unlimited catalog of masks, in particular from the 1980s and early 1990s, and some of them are pretty hard to find. I've got like a wish list of ones that I'm always on the hunt for, and one of those ones just happened to pop up on eBay last week, and I jumped on it and managed to snag it. It's called Staked, and it's a vampire, and he has 2 stakes going in each eye, and it's just a gnarly design by Ed Edmonds, who is the main man over there at Distortions Unlimited, and yeah, just a really cool mask. Happy to add that to ye old mask collection. And we can see that we're starting to get a little bit of dimension in the skull, starting to take shape, become a little more three-dimensional as we think about how that light is falling across the planes of the skull. And although I have a reference, that I'm looking at, it's not lit the same way that this scene is lit, so I can really only just use that for anatomy and shapes or whatever, and of course that is super helpful, but you really want to put some thought into where the light is actually coming from in your scene to give it that extra bit of realism as much as possible. I mean, half of it you're just fudging, how you think it's going to play across the object, and the more you paint, the more you can accurately or more or less quasi-accurately guess about how how light is going to wrap around a shape. Practice doesn't make perfect, but certainly helps. And then it always helps to just kind of lean back, or sometimes I'll stand up and take a step back and see how things are going. Okay, so let me just say, for those of you who are just joining, you're watching Art Autopsy. I'm your host, Clint Carney. I'm a professional artist. I do a lot of work in the film and television industry. And I encourage everybody watching at home to get out your art supplies and make some art right alongside me. And if you do make some art and you'd like to share it with my audience, please email it to me at clintcarneycreates@gmail.com, and I'll feature it on an upcoming live stream. Yeah, or even if you even if you want to share it with me and you don't want it to be broadcast to the world, that's fine too. You can always email it to me and just say, don't share this, but here it is. Because I always love seeing what my viewers are creating as well. And again, for if you are just joining, the idea behind this painting is that it's a pumpkin. The front of the pumpkin's been kicked in. A skull has been shoved into the pumpkin, and with a light source inside, a very bright candle or a fire or something going on in there. We haven't quite committed to what that light source is. We've only committed to the location of the light source, and then our secondary light source, or more of our ambient light source, is moonlight coming in, which is slightly to the front of our scene and of course up in the sky. So of course that's going to cast the moonlight there is going to cast some pretty harsh shadows into our socket and over the brow ridge here. Yeah, probably what I'll do, and I'm just thinking aloud, and if you're new to my show, let me just also explain that I think aloud a lot, and sometimes I will say I'm going to do something, and then I'll come up with a different idea and not do that thing. So don't hold me to anything I say that I'm going to do in this painting until it's actually done. But now I just lost my train of thought. Okay, yeah, I think maybe the light source is going to be far enough back in here that we may not necessarily see the flame. So it'll be concealed somewhere in there, but we'll kind of pull back on the light a bit so that it's brightest right around here, and then kind of maybe dims out a bit. Maybe we'll see some detail. Maybe there'll be some pumpkin guts in there, or something. Some seeds or something on the ground in there. Something. Oh yes, Michael recently did a Resident Evil 4 Chainsaw Sister animatronic. It was very cool. He posted the photos on Facebook. It looks super awesome. In fact, Michael, if you want, I'll share that on a future broadcast. I didn't know if you wanted me to share that or not, but if you want to show off your animatronic work, I'll share art of any form, especially animatronics and masks. If you want to share that with the world, I'm happy to post those as well. Let's see, Zach Ward. I started an all magenta painting with white and black to change hues. Very cool. Zach Ward loves their mascots distortions, I believe. Let's see. Oh, Charlie says maybe some fireflies. Oh yeah, that's not a bad idea. Give a little pops of color in the background. I like that suggestion. We may do that. We're gonna see how things go. Okay, in general, I'm liking the vibe. I'm just kind of refining a few of my lines here just to feel a little better about the illustration, and then I'll start, then we'll really start to detail out the skull a bit and the pumpkin. And again, we're just in the underpainting phase, and this is the phase of the painting where I'm just dealing with the light and the shadow. So it's very monochromatic at this point, and I just want to get a handle on how the light is coming into our scene and how that is affecting the shadows. What kind of shadows is it casting, and all that stuff. And if I can nail that in the underpainting phase, then when I start putting color in, we'll allow this light and shadow that we've established to show through from underneath the color. And if we do our jobs right in this stage of the painting, the future stages of the painting will be better off for it, and they'll move rather quickly. Gosh, this is one of the hazards of these cheap brushes is that the heads come off. So this one, the brush is still good, so I'm just going to clean it off real quick, but I'm going to switch brushes because I can't work with this constantly flying off. I will have to glue this back together at a future point in time, but fortunately I have no shortage of brushes to work with. Okay, now I'm just going to stand up for a second and take a look just from a few feet back just to see what the glaring errors may or may not be on this. Give me a second. Oh, I just jostled the painting. Let me make sure it's still in frame. All right, it still looks good. Okay, so from a distance, what I see that I'm not digging, and this is why it often helps to stand up. I think I want to bring this side of the pumpkin in a bit and maybe go out a little further on that side. So let's just do that. And we're going to bring this in there. So keep the pumpkin more in line with the direction that the skull is facing, essentially. All right, let me stand back again and see if that is better or worse. Okay, that's a little better, but I'm still feeling iffy about the way this connects on the ground right here. So I'm just gonna, I think there's just not enough contrast in there for me to judge that. So I'm just gonna pop a little bit of white in here just to, this is gonna get erased eventually, but I just wanna reinforce with myself visually where the edge of this pumpkin is, because it's blending into the shadows there, and I'm kind of losing the shape. So I just want to make sure I got that shape in. Okay, cool. I'm feeling good about this so far. How are you guys feeling about it? Oh yeah, it would be awesome if people could post pictures in the comments here. I don't know if that's something you can unlock on YouTube a lot. I know there's certain features of YouTube that get unlocked the more viewers you have or whatever, but I don't know, I have enough subscribers. I would think I would have those features unlocked. Maybe YouTube just doesn't allow for that, but they certainly should. Okay, let's put another little more of a highlight on the front of the skull here, where the moon is shining down. And this won't be so bold, this highlight here. In fact, pretty much everything, all of our highlights that aren't directly coming out of the mouth here are not going to be very bold at all. But it helps me to think about the shapes if I maybe push them a little bolder than they will be in the final stage. It's just when I'm doing the underpainting stage here. Okay, I am feeling okay about that. I'm going to start now on, let's just rough in something for the background other than my, other than what I've already roughed in. So this is just the tone of the canvas showing through right now, but I want to get this more of a black and white and kind of steer away from that initial green-gray tone. So I am just mixing up a gray on my palette, which, as you may guess, is just made up of black and white. And then I'm just holding my palette knife up to the canvas here to make sure I have the right tone that I want. I'm kind of making a gradient on my palette of different shades of gray, going from dark to light. That way I can just pull from it. In fact, I'll show you guys right here. See, so I got my black up there. It starts out with a darker gray and just gets lighter and lighter and lighter. And then I can just pull from that gradient the tone that I want at the time. And I'm even going to just use this to refine the shape of this pumpkin stem while simultaneously filling in the background. So the trees, what I want to do with this background, it's just a simple forest scene, and it's going to be pretty out of focus, right? So you're not going to see a whole lot of detail in there, but I do want to sell some sense of depth to it. So the trees on the outside of our frame here are going to be a little darker, and they're going to get lighter as they go in. And then in the background, it's going to be mostly fog, but you're going to see the hint of some trees back there. But I'm going to keep it very, very subtle with those background trees, and hopefully, it is my hope that that will give us a greater sense of depth. Also this last weekend, I had the opening reception, or I attended the opening reception for the tribute to David Lynch show that I had a painting in, and I am pleased to say that as of today, my painting just sold. So pretty excited about that. The show, if you're in California and you want a chance to see that painting in person, swing by the Spring Arts Gallery in downtown LA sometime between now and November 1st, I think. I think that's how long this show is going up. This is going to stay up, and then after that, it's getting shipped out to the East Coast into a private collection. So this will be your last chance to see it in person, unless randomly you know the guy that bought it. But the art collector that did buy it seems like a cool guy. I chatted with him on Instagram, and he's a filmmaker and an author, and he wrote a book about Twin Peaks, which is of course one of David Lynch's TV show. So I was excited to see that painting go to someone who was so invested in Lynch's work. And yeah, again, what I'm doing, I'm just kind of starting from the top now, and just kind of work our way down with the detailing. So even though I guess it's a stretch to say I'm detailing right now because this background is out of focus, but I'm trying to be more deliberate with the shapes that I'm putting into the background now and think about what those out of focus elements are. Just get that out of the way so we can get into the fun stuff, which is, of course, the detail work on the pumpkin and the skull. Thank you, Julie, for the nice words there. Zach, using only magenta has been a difficult thing, but I've been having fun. Yeah, man, sometimes I have a lot of fun doing a limited color palette. In fact, the David Lynch painting that I was just talking about, other than black and white, if we exclude black and white, I only used 3 colors on the whole painting, one of which was magenta, and then I used a phthalo turquoise, which I've just been using the hell out of for a while now, and then just a few pops of green, permanent green light. But mostly it was turquoise and magenta, and I really had fun just limiting the color choices there. So of course these darker streaks here, these are just the trunks of trees, and then as those are kind of the foreground, and then as we let the trees fall further into the background here, we're just getting some hints of foliage and letting a little bit of that light shine through. Again, not a crazy amount of detail to be had here in the background. Just want the hints of what's happening. And then the viewer's mind, if I do my job halfway correctly, the viewer's mind will fill in the blanks with the additional detail. It's funny how you can just make a few random shapes and lines, but if you give those shapes and lines context, the viewer's brain will kind of translate in this case, these blobs of paint and these random streaks. You'll know it's a forest in the background. And again, we're still in the underpainting phase. There's more work to go on this. So of course, this background, as well as every other element in this painting, is going to come more and more into focus as that's the wrong word. It's going to stay out. The background's going to stay out of focus, but it's going to. I don't know what I'm saying, man. the more I work on it, the more this scene is going to come alive. I guess is the long and short of it. The words are not finding my brain tonight. Okay, so that's the deep background. Let's think of another middle ground here, which is going to kind of be this layer, and this will be just another layer of foliage that's maybe going to be a little bit out of focus, and then so this is really, because this is going to be leaves on the ground essentially, it's going to be just a lot of light and dark blotches, but Then as we get closer, after we get past this plane, we're going to get into a focal plane where this is in focus, and then we're going to see some leaves on the ground here that are in focus, and so forth. So just blotches. And these right now just look like, bullshit blotches of nothing. But once we start adding detail into the foreground and we can see leaves in the foreground and stuff, then your mind is just automatically going to translate these blotches of paint into more leaves that are just not, that are just not in your plane of focus. So now, you don't have to, if you're doing a scene like this, a lot of artists prefer just to keep everything in focus. And that's one cool thing you can do with paint, which is harder to do with photography, is your whole scene can be in focus. You know, you can do it however you want. And sometimes I do that. But I think in this particular painting, I think it's going to be more fun with what they call a shallow depth of field, and that's where some things are in focus and other things aren't. So, and just to keep the viewer's eye and attention where I want it to be, which in this case is on the skull and the pumpkin. And oh, hello, it's Sarah. Am I pronounce? It's Sarae. Is it Sarah or Saray? I'm not sure. How do you pronounce it? Is it just pronounced like Sarah? Let me know, please. I don't want to mispronounce it. But what Rotorsan song is stuck in your head? I'm curious. Thank you, Jennifer, for the congrats on the sale. Um, Charlie says she was seeing a creeper between the trees. Yeah, hopefully, yeah. There will be some, hopefully some things that end up kind of popping out as optical illusions. Your brain forming those, turning those shapes into objects. Undead of Night has joined us. Hey, thanks for joining. The internal glow behind the jaw and teeth look fantastic. Thank you. Thanks so much. Still early stages, but it is starting to shape up already rather quickly. In fact, we are less than an hour in. And we've already got the basic composition handled, but just got to get that detail. Okay, I think I'm actually going to go a little darker with this background because, or at least the lower part of the background here, just because I want the pumpkin to pop more, but I don't want to go too bright with the pumpkin because after all, if I go too bright with the pumpkin, it's going to detract from the glow inside of its mouth. So I'm just going to try to very subtly work a little bit darker gray into this pumpkin here. Or I'm sorry, into the background here right above the pumpkin, and just kind of try to blend that into the sky just to let the pumpkin pop out a bit so it doesn't get lost. It's like Sarah. Okay, excellent. Cool. So I didn't say it incorrectly. All right. And I kind of want to reshape the top here. I'm gonna just redraw this a bit, round off this top just a bit. Just for aesthetic purposes, nothing Nothing that says I have to round this off, but I think I'm going to feel better about it rounded off, so that's what we did. Alrighty. Okay, now, okay, that's good enough for underpainting on that stem. Of course, more detail will come onto that. Let's think about how we want the caved in part of this pumpkin to look. I'm going to just kind of play around with some shapes here, some ideas for how this part of the pumpkin might be jagged. And of course, we got to think about the thickness of the pumpkin. It's got the skin right on top, but then also it's got I don't know, the rind, I guess, which has a thickness to it. So I want to make sure we keep that in mind. So what are you guys up to for Halloween? Is anyone doing anything exciting? I will be handing out, well, actually my wife will be handing out candy, and I will be attempting to scare the local trick-or-treaters. So I will be likely in some kind of a costume, standing amidst the animatronics in my yard, ready to pop out and scare trick-or-treaters. Hopefully to give the local kids a fun night. Just give my small contribution. That to me is a fun Halloween. I have such fond memories of trick-or-treating as a kid, and Halloween was always a big holiday for me. And I always think, if I can help make a kid's Halloween special for them too, by making it just a little spookier or scarier, then that's what I'm going to endeavor to do. Okay, probably not at this stage, but after we get into color and stuff, there'll probably be some additional pulp and pumpkin seeds and all that jazz, but we're just not there yet. I'm just explaining my thought process about one potential future for this painting. And try to just hint at these ridges. Again, this is just moonlit. It's not super amount of detail that we're going to see because of the low light, but I still want to hint at those details. Michael's going to a costume party. Zach's handed out candy and watching all the Friday the 13th movies. Excellent, excellent. That's a lot. That's going to be an all-day task to watch all of them. Travis does not get any trick-or-treaters. Well, that is a shame. You can always come down the hill to my place and hand out candy with Heidi. Travis is my brother, by the way, for those you don't know. I'm not just inviting random people from the live feed to my home, but let's see. Jennifer gets a few trick-or-treaters in the neighborhood. They give out full-size candy bars. Oh, nice. Yeah, it's weird. We were in Burbank for a while, and Burbank in general is a pretty good hot spot for trick-or-treaters, but we just happened to live in one section of Magnolia Boulevard where the trick-or-treaters did not go for whatever reason, and we were there for 12 years, and collectively over the 12 years, I don't think it's an understatement to say that we got 3 or 4 trick-or-treaters the whole time. But now we are in Valencia and we get a great amount of trick-or-treaters. So very excited to actually have be in an area where trick-or-treating still exists. I'll take a step back again and reassess from a distance. Okay, I'm feeling okay about it. Maybe the anatomy of the skull there could use a bit of work. Oops, I just knocked some stuff over. Oh man, I gotta share something with you guys actually. I just got this. There's a dude on Instagram. I can't remember his name for the life of me, but I'm sure if you Google it, this is the only guy making these things, so it probably won't be hard to find. But I collect VHS, as you guys know, and this guy made these awesome triple box set of Halloween 1 through 3. I'm in the middle of part 1 right now, and these are like for his area, which I'm not sure where he is, the original or the first time they broadcast all 3 movies in a row, and this was in 1988. And he made this awesome little box set of it with all of the commercials from 1988 still in there, edited for television and all of that. But there's something so cool about it, seeing it with the commercials from that time period. And yeah, anyway, really happy with that little package. And the guy is just making them one at a time. I don't know how he's making the packaging, but he did a fantastic job on them. Really happy to have that in the old VHS collection. And if anyone is interested in that, I'll try to dig up his name and mention it again on the next live stream if you can't find him. I think he just posted about it on Instagram, and he wasn't someone that I was following, but because I do follow a few other VHS related accounts, it just got recommended to me, and that was certainly an instance of the Instagram algorithm doing its job correctly, because it knew that would certainly be something I was interested in. That was an immediate purchase. No hesitation. Damn this squeaky chair. Okay. I'm constantly kind of squinting my eyes as I'm looking at this, trying to gauge when I've gone too heavy-handed with a shadow or not heavy-handed enough, or if you put your highlight directly next to a hard shadow, like right here, this is then indicates a hard edge, right? Because this is what's called the zygomatic arch on a skull, and this is a hard fall off edge, right? So which we want, because that's how the bone separates. But then see right here, this is not a hard edge. This is more of a soft transition from the top of the brow underneath. Therefore, this shadow is just a bit too harsh, and I'm just going to kind of blend it in a bit. It's not that it's too dark, it's just that the transition was a little too hard, and it was making it look like there was a hard bone there, when really it's just a softer transitions. So yeah, again, sometimes it helps to just squint your eyes and let everything fall out of focus, and then make those assessments as to if you're, but doing those kind of transitions between light and shadow correctly, and what choices you make. What does that say about the anatomy of the skull? My stomach is also going crazy. I have not eaten dinner, and my stomach's yelling at me right now. But that's okay. We're gonna paint through the hunger. Okay. I am also an avid collector. Other than masks, I collect skulls, and I've got, I don't even know how many, probably at least 100 different species of animal skulls. And I also have, I don't know, 8 or 9 human skulls. And then I have some plastic replicas like the one I'm using here. And this particular plastic replica was made by bone clones. And it's actually molded from a real human skull. So it's not just using an artist's interpretation of a skull as a reference, but because it's molded and cast from a real human skull, of course, it's anatomically accurate. The question is, can I duplicate what I see in an anatomically accurate way? Of course, there's going to be some things that are off, but as long as the basic structures are there, hopefully it will look right to the viewer. This is kind of okay. This is the cheekbone there. This kind of juts out from this angle. So this arch here, this is the zygomatic process, which connects right into there. I'll tell you, if you want to learn anatomy, not just human anatomy, but animal anatomy, you could do worse than collect skulls. Because nothing like having the real thing in front of you to study and see how the bones connect to each other. And of course, if you are not a have real skulls in your house kind of person, because I guess that's not for everybody, there are plenty of fantastic reference books out there. And of course, there's always the old internet, which has references for anything you could possibly ever want to learn how to draw. Let's see what's happening in the chat here. Travis watched Pennywise's story of It about the making of the 1990 version. Oh, cool. Where is that? I will watch that. I don't know. Where's that streaming? Necrotechnicon, thanks for joining. Yeah, man, that Halloween box set, pretty awesome. I love it. Michael, I agree. Tim Curry is the most awesome Pennywise. Tim Curry's pretty great and everything. Zach asks, is that Krampus in the background to the left of the painting? Yes, that is. That is a animatronic Krampus that I took a Christmas Caroler animatronic that I got at a garage sale for like 20 bucks, and I remade it into Krampus. In fact, if you would like to make your own or just curious how I did it, I've got a video on my YouTube channel that goes through the whole process I took to make it. In fact, I'm pretty proud of the YouTube video, and like no one watched it, so I released it like a week before Christmas, or maybe 2 weeks before Christmas, and it was just not early enough to get picked up by the YouTube algorithm, and so I'm hoping that it gets that it gets a new surge in popularity this year for Christmas, if there's anyone out there searching for how to make a Krampus animatronic. But yeah, it's a fun video. So thanks for noticing. Thanks for noticing my Krampus. That's always fun. I always like that scale of animatronics. There's sometimes at that scale they call them motionettes, which is just a fancy name for a small animatronic, I guess. Um, but yeah, I recently at Home Depot this year they released a new witch animatronic, which is also kind of that scale, so I picked that up. But it's also really fun to just take something like a Christmas animatronic, in this case a Christmas caroler, and convert it into Krampus, or into something it was not intended to be. And I am just, yeah, I'm just still refining shapes, trying to fix some of my poor earlier choices when rendering this skull, so that it feels a little more realistic anatomically. Theoretically, it will get there with time and tweaking, but again, you know, if you watch me paint, if you've watched this show or seen me paint live before, you know that I start rough, and you know, sometimes I just make bold choices early on, and then I regret them and have to go back and refine the shapes better. But I'm already feeling okay about the skull. It's shaping up a little better than it was before. And of course, I will continue to bring in the detail, and yeah, it's going to work out okay. Now, the unknown factor is, by the time I get through with this stage of the painting, which is refining the underpainting, will this underpainting be dry enough in parts to be able to start working in color? I certainly hope so, because there's nothing like seeing those first bits of color come into a painting. But if it's not dry enough, then, you know, obviously we don't want to add in color too early before it's dry enough to handle it. Otherwise, we're going to be just smearing our paint and ruining our good work. Only time will tell. But I film. I've been a lot better with it this year, but I film every step of the painting process. So if you want to see how a painting turns out, be sure to follow me like on Instagram, because I always post, or here on Facebook, you know, subscribe to my channel, because I always post time lapses of the whole process. These live stream videos, I generally go for 2 to 3 hours on them, you know, as long as I'm not too exhausted and have to cut them out early. 2 to 3 hours are essentially, I keep painting until the canvas is saturated and I can't paint anymore without pushing the paint around and making a mess. But I always film the rest of it, and then I'll post the final results so you can see the full process later. So yeah, that's, I guess, the long way of saying subscribe, please. Also, if I can ask a favor of you guys, if you wouldn't mind, if you're enjoying the video, please give me a thumbs up on the video, because that helps with the YouTube algorithm, and it helps lets YouTube know that people are enjoying the content, and then they actually show the content to more people. And the more people they show it to, a very tiny percentage of them subscribe, and blah, 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 blah. It all helps out in the end. Okay, so yeah, feeling better about the top part of the skull so far. It's not, I'm not going to say that it's finished. I'll keep tweaking, but it's getting better. And then I got to think about how, kind of from this angle, I'm going to see a little bit of these back teeth loop around this side. But those back teeth are going to be illuminated pretty brightly from the internal light source, so I don't want them to have a lot of detail, or be too dark. I just want to kind of hint at those teeth looping around there. That's probably all we need to do, just that little bit of detail. Okay, what's happening in the chat here? Oh yeah, so that Ace Frehley passed away. That's a shame. Yeah, that's rough. I was never a big Kiss listener, but I certainly recognize his contribution to the music world at large, and it's always a shame when we lose someone that's been so influential on the world. But he left us with a lot of music to enjoy. You know, at the end of this ocular cavity right here, there is the hole where the optic nerve travels through, and then there's a little some splits here. This cavity is divided into, what is it? How many separate bones do we have in that cavity? Well, they're fused. It's fused, but one, two. I am actually not clear. 3 or 4 fusings there of bone. So I just want a little hint of light that's coming through that hole there. So amidst the dark, I just want the little hint that we're seeing a little bit of that light that's happening inside the skull is peeking out. Yeah, I think that was a good call. Just those little detail there helps it out. Gotta squeeze out a little bit more black onto my palette. Zach's comment about the pumpkin ribs. Yeah, when you said that, I was all, oh, that sounds funny, but something about it sounds right. So that is what they're called. I see. Nice, nice. Charlie's asking if I think I'll get to coloring it tonight. I hope so, but I'm going to be at the mercy of how dry this paint gets. So we'll see. Once I get past this underpainting phase, we're going to see how that goes. If it's dry enough to where I can lay in color, I certainly will. I would love to be able to lay in color tonight, but there's also the distinct possibility that it's, not dry enough. And if I start glazing in color before it's dry, we run the risk of messing up messing up the image, which I certainly don't want to do. So we'll see. You gotta play that one by ear. Is the long story short on that question. Lars Sony, you rock, Clint. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you watching. Pumpkin ribs, yes. Nice. You know, I think it'd be cool too. I like a good messed up pumpkin, like, you know, with warts and stuff. Maybe I'll add some pumpkin warts to that in a bit. We'll see. We'll see. That's a long ways off from getting to the detail on that, but that's a possibility. Okay. Starting to shape up. So this is going to be, yeah, again, I'm going to do this bottom jaw kind of messed up. I don't know about your skull collection, but my skulls, I think I only have one that has perfect teeth, as in all of its teeth, and they're all intact and in good shape. But all of the other ones are missing more than a few teeth, and it really, yeah, it gives each one its own little personality. And this guy, he's going to have very few teeth left in his face. You'll know the budget of this show increases if one day I show up and my chair no longer squeaks every time I move. I don't know why I'm so fixated on the squeakiness of my chair, but I am. Okay, so again, I'm just doing this, throwing in a little light color paint here. This is going to get painted over, but I'm just trying to better visualize where the bottom of this pumpkin is. And the bottom of the pumpkin was getting lost in the shadows there. So temporarily, I'm just adding in a white line here just so I can keep track of it, because I want this jaw coming out. And, you know, I think we're going to end up doing some stringy pumpkin guts and some pumpkin seeds or something coming out of the mouth. I think, at least that's the direction I'm leaning currently, at least. Michael says, I like how your painting looks like it's about to breathe fire. Thank you. Travis says, if everyone chips in 30 cents, you can buy a can of WD-40. I am staring at a can of WD-40 right over there, and let me tell you, I have WD-40 the hell out of this chair. It does not do anything. It squeaks no matter what. I think there's a part in the chair that is like encased in plastic, and that's where the squeaking is taking place. That honestly I could fix, but I have to take apart the chair to fix it, and laziness has prevailed on that front. I only WD-40'd the part of the chair that I could actually get the nozzle into, but yeah, I could fix it, but you know. But then what would I have to talk about on the live stream if not for the squeaky chair? Okay, yeah, I'm feeling all right about this guy so far, you know. It's looking all right. A-okay thus far. And this is just going to be pumpkin guts back here, pumpkin guts, goo. Again, I'm just blocking in shapes. It's not worried about the detail on that just yet. And then I also want to think about how this light coming from this mouth is going to play off. Let's start thinking about kind of the leaves on the ground and stuff, right? Let's just, I'm not going to get crazy with the detail on the leaves or whatever, but I do want to start thinking about how this light is maybe going to hit some things here in the foreground. All right, let's start bringing in a little more detail. Just start finishing off this ground here. And I'm going a little, yeah, one reason it helps to, for me at least, visually to paint in black and white initially, or monochromatic, doesn't have to be black and white, it can be monochromatic in any color, is you can start seeing, you can see the contrast of just the light and the shadow. So in here, yeah, maybe this forest floor or whatever it is wouldn't necessarily be so bright right there in the real world, but I'm going so dark with the shadow side of this pumpkin, I want it to pop more. I want the pumpkin to pop more. So now I know I just want to make that ground a little brighter than maybe it would be in reality, but I'm doing it just because it helps the composition, you know? And that's one of the fun things about painting, is that it doesn't have to be based in reality. If you try to make correct choices based on where the light and shadow fall as much as possible, and that gets the viewer to believe in the reality of the image, but then you can fudge where some of those details with where the light and shadow fall just to make certain things pop. But if the bulk of what you're doing is kind of feels like it's based in that reality, the eye will forgive a few unrealistic indulgence here and there, just for the sake of improving the composition. Okay, I'm just gonna get in, just wash in some darker colors here, because I really want these highlights here to stick out a bit. And I also kind of want it to vignette just a little bit, so I'm going to go darker black right in these corners. So yeah, I've got quite a few paintings to finish up now. This will be the fourth art autopsy painting I have not got around to finish, that is not finished yet. So I'm going to see how many of these guys I can finish before the next live stream. I am currently, as of recently, not working on a movie or a TV show for a brief period of time. So I want to use that opportunity to get some painting in, as well as I got to make some progress. I'm working on a new album. Been kind of casually chipping away at that. And I'm hoping that in between now and whenever I book the next movie gig, I can make some serious headway on the music front, because it has been just over 2 years since I put out my last album. And I'm about due for another one, I think. and I've been writing a bunch of songs ever since I put out the last album, and I've got a lot of them. I certainly have more than an album's worth, so now I can go through the process of narrowing down the ones that I think are the best and then actually finishing them, getting some reasonable sounding vocals tracked and finishing up the music and all that stuff. So that's what I hope to be doing with the rest of my year. But if a movie comes around, you know, the nature of the freelance work in the art world is you got to take the work when it comes, because you never know when it's going to stop coming. So okay, all right, feeling okay about that. Just gonna kind of messed up my ground highlights there. Just gonna bring a few of those back in. I don't even know what necessarily all of these leaves are going to look like, what kind of leaves they're going to be or whatever. I just know that they're going to be leaves, and with leaves and ground debris and stuff, you can get away with doing kind of random shapes and figuring that out later. Okay, I'm going to take a step back and see how we're feeling about that. Give me one moment. Yeah, I'm feeling okay about that. I think I want to refine this here a bit. Yeah, this side of the pumpkin, this is feeling real flat to me. Squeak, squeak, squeak. You know what I mean? I'm not believing the way the light is pouring across this side of the pumpkin. All right, so let's see what we can do to fix that. Michael asks, Clint, are you a Joe Satriani fan? You know, I hate to admit this. I recognize that name, but I can't for the life of me tell you why I know the name. So that's a firm maybe. Remind me who he is. Okay, yeah, I think what's happening with here, the problem is I let too much light come back around here, and I just gotta, this just has to be bolder, dark, solid black right here. You know, initially I wasn't entirely sure that this idea of the skull and the pumpkin was gonna work. It's just a random thought that came into my head, but I actually I think it works out all right. Not too bad. Not too bad. Now, yeah, sadly, I don't think we're gonna get into color tonight. It's just even up here where we were painting last, it's a little too wet, and I certainly don't want to smear it around. So sadly, we're not going to get into color tonight. But we made a lot of good progress, you know. Let's see. He did the album Surfing with the Alien. Oh, I don't know. That doesn't sound super familiar. Again, I may know his work if I heard it, but yeah, off the top of my head, it would be hard to say with any degree of certainty. Is it good? Is it worth checking out? Oh, Michael Garcia says Crimson Head Zombie is done now. Okay, excellent, man. Send me a photo. Love to check it out. Love to see how that turned out. Undead Knight says, I think the bright section you added behind the pumpkin is justified by moonlight reflecting off ground fog. Oh, yeah. Hey, I like that. I'll take that justification. Thank you. Let's see. Sorry, I missed a bunch of the text here. Let's see. Charlie asks, has my skull collection freaked anyone else like they weren't freaked anyone out like they weren't expecting it? You know, maybe my cleaning lady the first time she came over. But for people that like, I hang out with and that come over to my house because they know me, I don't think anyone has been shocked by it. um, it's all nice and in display cases and stuff, so it's not, they're all treated reverently. It's not like they're there for shock value or anything. I try to be mindful that they were once living people or creatures and be respectful of that. But yeah, so no, hasn't freaked anyone out yet, other than the cleaning lady initially. Now she's cool with it. Charlie says, good to hear you work on a new album. Thank you very much. All right, cool. Well, thanks for the recommendation. I'll check that out. Okay, let's see. Maybe just get a little more patches of bright here. I mean, I hate to say it, but we're about ready to come to an end on this because we're just kind of saturated with paint on the canvas. So we might have to call a stop to this, let this dry, and then I promise I will return to it shortly. But before I lose your attention, if I can just tell you about a couple things I have coming up. I've got a painting that is going to be on display at the Descanso Gardens. At Descanso Gardens, they have a gallery on the site there called the Sturt Haga Gallery, and I have a brand new painting that is going to be on display there. The opening reception is November 1st. And they make admission free during the opening reception. The details are on my website. If you've never been to Descanso, it is a beautiful place. And if you want to get in there for free, just go to the opening reception, and then you can probably wander around the park for free. It's super cool. That's November 1st, and then later on in November, I got to get the date of this still, but I think it's toward mid-November, is going to be another Hyena Horror Market. This is a kind of a smaller convention at like a VFW size hall put on by the good folks at Hyena Gallery, which is a gallery that has been very supportive of my arts in Burbank, California. And they rent out a place called the Mayflower Club in North Hollywood and do conventions there throughout the year. So next one is coming up in November. I'll be posting that. Also, if you want to make sure you always get notified of these, feel free to sign up for my Patreon. Not everybody can afford it. I totally get that. It's not an expense that a lot of people can do. Totally get that. But there is a free tier on my Patreon, so you can just sign up there for the free tier, and then you get notified. You get an email every time like one of these live streams comes up, or if I'm going to be at an event or whatever. So feel free to do that. Oh, the Hyena Horror Market is also a free event, by the way. So yeah. Anyway, I want to call it a night on this, I think. So I thank you all so much for watching. If you would, please give me a thumbs up on the video, and that will just help YouTube show it to more people in the future. I appreciate you guys joining in the chat and talking. And if you made art during this video, please email it to me at clintcarneycreates@gmail.com, and I'll feature it on the next live stream, which is going to be 2 weeks from today. All right, you guys have a fantastic night. Thanks again, and I will see you soon.